Come on, get in now until the mystery is solved. Stay around for BD horror. Dun, 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 dun. That's me. Dun, 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 dun. For those of you who don't know, that is the Scooby-Doo show intro. But obviously it's not Scooby-Doo, it's BD horror instead of the dog. Anyway, we're talking about Ghost of Fear Street today. And a once great man called Forrest Gumpeth had given a perfect analogy as to how I would describe the Ghost of Fear Street series. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And that's been the case so far. This series for me has had a wide variety in terms of the books I've read. The first Ghost of Fear Street book I read, as many of you may remember, was Why I'm Not Afraid of Ghosts. And that, my friend, was the most dog shittiest book I ever read in my life. Jesus Christ. That was like watching King Kong get an enema. Ew. 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 Yuck. No, bro. No. Worst kids horror book I ever read. That was the first Ghost of Fear Street book I read. All right, then I read Eye of the Fortune Teller, which was good. I thought it was actually pretty good. Quite good, actually. And I enjoyed it a bit. Then I read Monster Dog. Monster Dog was all right, decent. And now I've read this story. And this story is, fortunately, despite the, you get the pun. It's like, it's a bad luck charm. Unfortunate, but it's fortunately rough crowd. Anyway, talking about the tale of the blue monkey. And this was a good story. So let's talk about it. I actually read this one a couple of days ago because on the podcast we're going to be talking about this. So this is actually, I think, the first review that I've done before the podcast. So ahead of the game, people, ahead of the game. But yeah, we're going to be talking about the tale of the blue monkey from Ghost of Fear Street. And this was a good story. Off rip, what would I rate it? I'd probably give this one a 7.5 out of 10, which is like a classic good score, right in the middle of that good. Now, is it a fantastic story? Did it wow me? No. All right, I think there are some things it's missing. I think there were a few misses in terms of the story. But overall, I enjoyed it. And one of the main reasons I enjoyed it is because it's very much an homage to Stephen King's The Monkey Story, which I read in Skeleton Crew. And I love that story. I think I gave it a 9.4 out of 10. But that was mainly because it was so well written. It was so intense. And this is like the kids' version paying homage to that. Because they're very similar items. Almost damn near the same in terms of what they do. Just the levels, because adult horror versus kids horror. So there you go. And it has some dark moments. This book had some dark moments in it that genuinely surprised me. So let's talk about it. But yeah, before we get into the actual, I guess, review portion, let me give you a brief synopsis on what this book is exactly about. Now, it is about this main character, this main girl, who I forgot her name. Yeah, I forgot her name. But her brother's named Danny. So you have this main girl, and you have her brother, who's I think 1 year older than her, named Danny. And essentially, they have this babysitter. And this babysitter, I think, is named Bess. And Bess is kind of like this old, sweet lady. She's babysitting them, and she's telling them stories. These urban legend stories, because they love hearing scary stories when she's babysitting them. Because their parents are away for some, like, nutrition sales thing. That's their job. And as she's telling them urban legends, of course she's telling it about Fear Street, because for those of you who don't know, Ghost of Fear Street is a spin-off series. It takes place all on Fear Street as well. A lot of references from there. However, these are more so kid horror. It's not YA. It's not as dark, but it's more so kids horror, like a Goosebumps knockoff type of stories taking place on Fear Street. So she's talking about the story of this magic toy maker that lived on Fear Street and actually used to live in the house that was right across from these guys' house. And this evil toy maker was allegedly supposed to work with black magic. They created these toys that would seemingly come to life. They felt like there was more to it. People would stare and be shocked by what this person was creating. And eventually, the girl who lived in these current kids' house actually had went over there and was fascinated by the dolls, and then saw this blue monkey that the toy maker created and left on the counter. And what ended up happening was the glass basically broke, some situation happened, and she basically, or I don't know if the glass broke or if she went in, but basically she steals this blue monkey, takes it home, and then gets confronted by the evil toy maker. And when she tries to return it back to them, they basically say, oh, no, 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 you can keep it. And although it may have seemed sweet at first, it turns out the reason why they let her keep it was because it was cursed. And this cursed toy brought forth bad luck. Gradually, she started facing more and more dangerous situations. You know, it would just be like, okay, she spilled some food, you know, tripped on something, not that big of a deal. But then I think her dog choked to death on the toy and died. And then her father broke his leg or something in an accident. So it progressively kept getting scarier and scarier until the point when something happened to the girl. So right off the bat, you get this urban legend, and the kids are intrigued. They love the story, and obviously Danny, being the older brother, he's kind of a shit. He's sort of picking on his little sister and telling her, oh, you're a chicken, you're a baby, you're getting scared by this. And eventually she gets fed up, and she's like, you know what? You know, Beth said that this is the house where the blue monkey was kept. It was buried somewhere in the yard. I'm gonna go dig it up and find it. And then as she goes to go dig it up, her and Danny get into a little bit of an argument. Danny gets into a situation, and let's just say they may or may not find what they're looking for. And once that happens, this story basically goes crazy because obviously it's a bad luck charm. It brings forth bad luck. There are some pretty dark, intense scenes in here. And they have to basically figure out, you know, who is the toy maker, because they're under some suspicions that their neighbors may or may not be tied to this evil toy maker of the past. And are they still around? Is their magic still alive somehow? And they have to figure out this whodunit situation in order to figure out how they're going to resolve this blue monkey. They can't destroy it. They can't get rid of it. So they have to find the source, the creator, and then get rid of it that way. So you kind of get a little bit of a mystery aspect, kind of Scooby-Doo-ish. That's why I did the Scooby-Doo intro in the beginning, because it is a little bit like a whodunit mystery kind of Scooby-Doo fashion thing. So yeah, that is basically the tale of the blue monkey. I don't want to give any more away because it'd be pretty easy to spoil, and it is a very simple story. And what do I think about it? So I gave it a 7.5 out of 10. It's a good story. I enjoy it. I think that it has some dark moments in there involving some of the bad luck that the blue monkey brings. You have some bodily harm done to some of the characters, potentially the two kids. There's a scene with knives and hands. Ugh, pretty rough. You have a barbecue scene involving fire and pyrokinesis. Pretty scary. And yeah, there's some darker moments in here, some hints of people being possibly strangled, dying. You know, the urban legend alone had some dark stuff in it. So this book is not afraid to go there, despite it being kids' horror and having a little bit of a younger audience, like 1 year younger or whatever, compared to Goosebumps. It is not afraid to be a little bit darker, a little bit sinister at points. And I do like, again, the homage to Stephen King's The Monkey. As I was reading it, I was thinking about Stephen King's story. I thought this was a nice, fun representation of that. And overall, the story is good. I like the whodunit aspect to the book, the mystery. It did have me guessing. At first, I thought I could figure out the twist right away, and then there's a second twist that happens that kind of does throw you off a little bit. I did predict it, but it was like I predicted it like a couple pages before it happened, so that's not that bad. It's a good mystery, and it adds a little bit of a flair to the book, keeps you interested. However, in terms of why this book doesn't get a higher score out of me and why it's still below Eye of the Fortune Teller, this is a widely praised Ghost of Fear Street book, but it's not so far my favorite. And the reason is because it does feel like it drags out in the pacing a little bit. Specifically, it doesn't need to be as long. I think this book is clear that it had to meet some kind of page requirement, because there's a point in this book towards the middle where the two main characters, are basically heading to the neighbor's house to go investigate something. It does not get resolved. You know, they get bombarded, and then once they're thwarted, they leave the house, and it all happens within one chapter. They head back to their house. Then something else happens, and then literally they go to the neighbor's house, something happens, they don't find anything, they go back, and then immediately go back to the neighbor's house again in the next chapter. So I'm sitting there like, why would you waste time with them coming back and going like right immediately, one after another? Usually that's okay if it's like spaced out chapters and then you have that, but having it back to back first chapter they go there, head back, all in one chapter, then the next chapter they head back there. It just feels like it was dragging out pacing. It could have all been done in one cohesive scene, save some time. I get it, you have to meet page requirements, but it is evident there. And the ending to me is okay. I mean, I think it's fine. It's not inherently bad. It's a decent ending, but it didn't surprise me. It didn't wow me or anything. Just sort of felt whatever. It kind of felt a little bit incomplete, to be honest, but, you know, it is what it is. It's not bad. And then another point that I have to bring up is Danny. The older brother, Danny, is super one-dimensional and annoying. He's just always ragging on his sister, saying she's a chicken, saying she's this, saying she's that. And he basically does that throughout the book. He's like a little shit. There is one point where he starts to believe his sister about something, and then you get a little bit of a character development, but then it just resets back to normal towards the second half of the book. So he is annoying, and I didn't really enjoy him that much, but it wasn't so bad that it took away from the story. The main reason I didn't give this the highest scores is because, again, the pacing's a little bit dragged out, and I don't think there's enough to this story to warrant it to be higher. I feel like it's missing something. That could just be the fact that it's a luck charm or a cursed object-based story, and those ones usually fall within the same tropes. Same kind of stuff that happens. This one did have a few different scenes, but it just felt like it was lacking something. Maybe it was the ending, maybe it was the resolution, maybe it's just a dragged out story, but it felt like it didn't fully hit everything it was supposed to hit, and I was left a little bit hanging. But at the same time, it's a good story. So do I recommend you read it? Yeah, I recommend you go read Tale of the Blue Monkey. It's a fun story. You're going to enjoy it. If you've ever read the Stephen King monkey story, you'll like this one. If you like cursed object stories, you'll probably like this one. And this is a better Ghost of Fear Street book. Because overall, I think the series is very all over the place. It is definitely weaker in quality than Goosebumps. I would dare say it's probably one of the weaker Goosebumps knockoff series, not counting Shivers. Shivers is... Jesus Christ, Shivers. But this one is a step up from that, but it's not as good as like Spine Tinglers or What I Heard from Bone Chillers or Spooksville or stuff like that. So, yeah, Ghost of Fear Street, in terms of that, it's a little bit of a better book. 7.5 out of 10. I recommend you go check it out. And yeah, that's all I have for this review. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll be talking more about it on the podcast episode, which will, I think, be recorded on this Sunday, so stay tuned for that. We're also going to be talking about Locker 13, and it came from beneath the sink in a three-way battle. So yeah, you get to see us do a kids horror threesome. Pause. Menage a trois. Anyway, stay tuned for the podcast episode and check out my other videos down below. I have content down there. And also, feel free, hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. Free way to support me. I really appreciate all you guys do. Hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. God bless each and every one of you. And yeah, that's all I have. Deuces. Sorry, fellas. This is a quick video. It was a little bit a little bit to the point, but just keep in mind that I did eat quite a bit of Taco Bell. I know. You're like, why are you eating so much Taco Bell, bro? That's on you, bro. Listen, man, it's late. I get back from college at like 7 o'clock. It's late. I go in the morning, 6 a.m. I come back 7 p.m. Whole day I'm there. So it's late. You got to get some food. It's cheap. You got to get it. All right. Is your stomach going to be going through the 4th of July tomorrow morning? Yes, indeed. But is it worth it? No, it's really not. I'm starting to feel it rise back up.